What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jack Ramsays, Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague, and yes, you heard Brandon go, wait, I need a sec. That did come out across because, hey, are you ready to go? Yeah, go ahead, fire it up. Literally as I press launch to go live. Hold on, I need a sec.
You sound like a guy that doesn't have kids and doesn't know what it's like when the ring cam goes off and both your kids are at the door and your wife isn't here to help. And I'm like, worst possible timing this could have happened.
Oh, that was awesome.
So I had to. I'm sorry about that. I had to jump.
No,
out
it was just funny as hell. I'm just like,
well,
what?
you should have seen how I felt. I got a ring notification. I'm like, why is somebody at my door? It's probably a package. No, it's my daughter.
It's your wife ordering something from Amazon.
Oh, I would have loved for it to be a delivery driver.
Yeah, no, it was a delivery stork. It's Friday afternoon, 6 o'clock. June, what the hell is today's date? 7th. There you go. June 7th. We are less than 3 weeks away from the NBA draft. There is a ton of scuttlebutt around the draft workouts. We'll talk about that. Had some news yesterday about the assistant, or at least one of the assistant coaching positions likely to be filled, as well as a pile of listener questions to get into. So where do you want to start, Sprague?
You know what? I am one to always admit I can listen to criticism or thoughts and learn from them. And so in searching the interwebs, I've discovered that people are a little upset that we don't read every single question. So we're going to start with a mailbag today. We are going to start with the mailbag, and then we'll get to your information on the assistant coach, a coach that's somewhat familiar in name to a lot of people, I think, that follow the league. We'll get to some of the prospects that are going to be coming to work out. There was some pretty big news that came out about that from one of the draft workout guys, and I'm sure you've got thoughts on it as well. But we will start with the listener mailbag. I will start at Nerd Runner. How many non-public workouts do you think have the Blazers done for the lottery pick? Gavoni already mentioned Klingon.
So, Klingon actually hasn't worked out in Portland yet.
Oh,
he's going
interesting.
The date was actually wrong on that part. So, he's going to come through. But I found that to be a little bit interesting that was there. But I know of a couple others that have taken place. They wanted to keep it private. They want to keep it whatever. So I'll respect that for now. But this is also nothing new in that sense. I don't know if I mentioned this last episode or last week. I don't think I did. I think I just mentioned it on the radio. A couple years ago, the Blazers had a workout scheduled, and I get to the PF, and PR goes, so agent wants to keep this private. So I was at the PF, and they're very apologetic. I'm so sorry, but this is what we have to do to get them in the building. And I knew who it was. I knew what was going on. I knew who the agent was, and I was like, okay, this is part of the process. So, while this isn't new, this draft is a little bit weird because it is so all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. Outside of SAR, and honestly, Dalton Knecht, I don't think many guys have a super, super tight range. And I think Reza Shay's probably really close on that list. Even though Reza Shay is slated higher, I think his range is a little bit wider than Dalton's. Dalton's is like just this 6 through 10 spot, or 5 through 9 if you want to get like super specific. But other than that, I've heard Reed Shepherd at 3 all the way back to 8. I've heard Ron Holland, people that love him, up at 3-4, and then all the way out of the lottery.
He's slipping.
Yeah. Modest Buzelis, where everybody was like, 5 to Detroit. Well, Trajan Langdon in charge there now, and maybe they don't go that path. falls to the back of the lottery or even out of that. Devin Carter's a guy that I've heard move way up. Khalil Ware is a guy I've heard maybe working his way into the lottery. It's smokescreen season, so you never really know what to believe. But as far as how many non-public workouts I think the Blazers have already done, I know of at least 2.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting draft for sure. I've been telling this to a couple people of like, and I've probably said it to you. It just, when you have a draft that's of lower end talent in terms of ceiling and prospects. I mean, I've seen mocks with Reed Shepherd at 2. I've seen mocks with Reed Shepherd at 9. Like I think he'll be in the top 5. But my point is, I don't really know I don't know what the reach qualifies as for a draft like this. Even Sarr, who's probably the number 1 pick, the random little tea leaves of, are the Spurs going to package 4 and 8 to get up to 1, and is Atlanta going to swing back to 4 because they can get Klingon, like whatever that is. It's an interesting draft, I guess, from the perspective of what you're saying, and then also like what a reach is, how you quantify what a reach is in a draft.
I don't think you could have a reach, really, unless you're like 25 picks out.
Sure.
That's like, I think Sarr for me is number 1 on my board. That is not changing. Like 7'1" with elite mobility and defensive player of the year caliber tools. Like, to me, he's not a tier 1 prospect in the sense of like across all drafts. In this draft, he is a tier 1 prospect. Tier 2, I mean, I don't know if there is a tier 2 guy. Like if you're just talking about this draft, but if you wanted to say tier 2 guy, probably Klingon. And then if you're looking at some upside guys, like I don't know if I would put Cody or Tijan on that level. And the only reason I put Klingon there is because he is so big and he was so prolific as far as like what he was asked to do. But I think it's so flat in that next group that it's damn near impossible to reach without going way sideways. Way sideways. So, I don't know. But but back to the original question. How many do I think they have had? 2. I think they have had 2. If they snuck a third one in there, they did a hell of a job of literally no one knowing about it.
Say Jack Ramsay's mailbag draft edition draft is about 3 weeks away, just a little under that. So we're getting ready for it here in Portland. Jeff wants to know, Jeff Richmond, Portland goes into the offseason with 3 rostered centers, each with multiple years remaining on a contract. Does the fact that Portland has been center heavy in their pre-draft workouts foreshadow one of those existing centers being moved, or in Robert Williams' case, Time Lord unable to play right away?
Yes and no, right? Like, could you move them? Yeah, I think Wap would be a guy who you very easily move because his contract is smaller and he's like a viable backup big in the league. Rob, I think people would be interested in him as a buy low candidate. I don't know if it's necessarily indicative of that. I think it's more that what does this draft have? It has a lot of bigs. It has like Sarr. It has Saloon. It has Klingon. It has Edie. It has Ware. It has Missy. Like there's a lot of freaking big dudes in this draft, which is like, it's like, yeah, it's a good thing to have. Like I've talked about my draft principles. If I'm going to err, I'm going to err on size.
Yeah.
Like that's, do I like Klingon as the number 7 pick? Not really. But if you believe in the value there, if he's truly the 3rd best prospect on the board, I get it. And like again, like it was funny. Corey Tuluba, No Ceilings, mentioned it on his show earlier today, and it's something I've heard before too. You can get Dyson Daniels in any draft. I've mentioned the exact same quote, I want to say probably like 6-7 months ago, when we first started kind of looking at like prospects and kind of like my evaluation process. Like 6'6" kind of toolsy guys, like those guys come and go. You know what there's a scarcity of? People over 7 foot tall. There's a reason why, what is it, 18%? I think it's 17.5 to be exact, of 7 footers get a chance to play in the NBA across the world. like legit 7-footers, because they're rare.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you definitely take that into consideration. And then there's the Lively Gafford effect, like the impact and how much, like, hey, look, Lively is a rookie. Look at how impactful he is. Like that's influencing some stuff. It's not everything, but if you could talk yourself into like, well, Derek Lively last year, well, Khalil Ware this year, like big spriggy athlete with good hands and finishing. Yeah, I think you can. I think you can see that pretty easily.
I think a couple things there. I would actually put myself in the category of being surprised if they don't take a big with one of their 2 picks. Like I'm kind of officially there of it just kind of makes a lot of sense for them. I get it. And the other thing is I love when teams operate in a vacuum of seeing something work instead of just saying, hey, Derek Lively, look how that turned out. And then they got Daniel Gafford. You could just easily say, Derek Lively he's a good player. He has surprised people.
Mm-hmm.
It's also nice to catch lobs from Luka Doncic.
Also, but Lively was a super highly rated prospect who just had a dog crap year.
He had a bad year at Duke. Yeah.
But like that's also like bigs are weird, man. They take they develop and pop at certain levels and ages. Like Lively was a guy who could shoot threes.
Yes.
And he's not now. He's like his role has changed to catch, lob, finish.
And I think that's kind of my point, though, is like, and I don't mean this to sound, I'm a big fan of Derek Lively. I think it's a great story.
But Luka makes everything easier.
Yes. If he goes to Charlotte, I don't think we're talking about Derek Lively.
I mean, if LaMelo's healthy.
LaMelo is never healthy. If LaMelo is healthy, that's the biggest if in Charlotte.
That's a big caveat for sure.
This one from @Adam_Antium. With all unknown chaos in this year's draft, starting with Atlanta at number 1, if you were Atlanta's GM, how are you navigating this draft, and what kind of file from Atlanta's decision could benefit Portland?
I don't have a decision tree that goes that long. Like,
let me ask you this. Let me shorten it up a little bit then.
No. Like, I get exactly what he's saying. Yeah. I just think that the things that Atlanta can do can be so deep.
Yep.
And so disruptive to so many different things that it's almost impossible. Like, you try to plan accordingly, right? Like, okay, if this team does this, then it's an if-then. Like the list of things that Atlanta can do: trading the pick back, taking the player, trading Trey, trading DeJounte, trading Clint Capella. Like, there's so many different trading DeAndre Hunter. There's so many different things that they could do. That's got like, and the fact that they're picking first, it's not like they're further down. Like, they are upstream of everything.
Yeah. That's why I wonder if they trade it.
And I like that's and what happens then?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, okay. Like I was talking to a scout the other day, and I go, here's what's gonna happen. 24 to 48 hours before the draft, one of 2 things happens. Atlanta trades their pick, or they trade Trey or DeJounte, and it's going to be a shit show because it's like everybody's going to go bloop, and it's all of a sudden going to reset boards. Like, well, if this team has the number 1 pick now, they're going to do this, or if this team gets Trey, or if this team gets DeJounte, or gets DeJounte, now Reed Shepard's falling down. Now it's like the downstream effect just goes bloop, 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 all over the place.
Yeah,
and the inflection points for Atlanta just ripple through the entire draft. I also think Portland and San Antonio, because they both have 2 picks in the top 14, are massive, massive, massive inflection points.
This one from @KHartos44 is a known thing. Is it a known thing in NBA offices that players intentionally tank workouts for teams they don't want to play for? I'm just thinking of Saloon Best Interest with a Pistons workout coming up. Hey, the Pistons might be a fun franchise to go to now. They might fire Monty. They're cleaning house. They've got Langdon. They've got Kate Cunningham getting a max extension potentially.
There's a lot of noise around Monty right now.
Dude, the owner straight up was like, "I'll pay $60 million to get rid of his ass." But
even just that, it sounds like it's probably over there. I could be wrong, but definitely.
I mean, look, Monty Williams is a great dude. Is it fair to also say, is he a good coach? I mean,
I love this argument. He's a good coach in Phoenix. Took a team to an NBA Finals.
Yeah, then lost the locker room.
Just saying. But is it a known thing in NBA Finals that players tank workouts? I don't know about the tanking workouts.
Don't they just avoid him now? Like
Yeah.
Bronny saying, "Hey, I'm only going to 2 teams." Like, figure that out.
Charlotte's having trouble getting players in right now.
Well, have you seen Charlotte operate?
Well, I mean, look, they have a new front office. They've got Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, LaMelo. Like they've
Yeah.
got like,
People seem
but
to like their coach. Yeah.
yeah, like it. But I've heard from more than a few people that Charlotte's just not things are not going well out there. But I've also heard they're a team chasing Reed Shepherd. So
That
who
could be
knows?
fun. I could be in on that.
Be a fun little fit for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as tanking workouts, I don't think you can do that unless you're really secure in where you want to go and you know that team is going to take you.
Well, usually when you get those promises too, they're like they shut it down.
Yeah,
They've got a promise.
Yeah, you're not going to go work out anywhere else.
No, it's actually I would argue to this question specifically, it would be very immature and idiotic to tank a workout. That's the bad kind of thing about your reputation.
Well, here's the thing: is like even the most tight-lipped organizations, Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there and you have a dog shit workout. I mean, you just bomb. And to be clear, players bomb workouts. You don't hear about them because nobody's out there publicly trying to bash guys.
Right.
But behind the scenes, you do hear like, ugh. I mean, take a look at mocks right now. You can see who's falling. It's not hard to see who may have had some rough workouts. But even the most tight-lipped organizations, if you go in there and you bomb a workout and you bomb an interview, somebody somewhere is going to go, hey, so-and-so came through. They bombed. Interviewed terrible. Background intel was, this guy's a mess. All it takes is one. And then everybody starts talking. And then they have another workout somewhere else. And you may have come into that workout clean and safe, but instead you bombed a workout. And the next workout you get to, you crush it, but somebody in the back of their head's like, had a bad workout. So I don't think you want to go in and intentionally try to do that.
I mean, if we learn anything about the league in our lives, everybody in that league loves to talk, even the ones that don't talk.
Yeah. So it's a very fun thing. Look, I'll admit it right away. I love talking to those guys. So,
Hell yeah. Why not? At Usual Case has a multi-question tweet here. Help them understand the new CBA affects potential trade scenarios, including the mechanics, how Portland can make trades that end up reducing salary for upcoming season, aside from buyouts. And don't you agree that drafting another point guard in this draft would be more pressure on Scoot and inhibit him from feeling comfortable this season? And then there's another one about Jeremy, but I'll stop at the two there. Just
the CBA one, I'm not deflecting it, but I'm going to, whether it's you and I or it's a long form article that I'll make free or something like that, going into free agency or after the draft, or maybe the day before the draft, I'll push one that way because there's probably going to be some trades then there too. The new CBA, like you don't have to worry about the impacts of it until July 1st, once the new league year starts, but which is why I think that you might see the Blazers make a deal before then, so they're not operating under any prohibitions that might pop up. But Portland can make trades, and I saw somebody say that Bobby Marks highlighted in his breakdown that the Blazers cap situation is dire. I had Bobby Marks on my show last week, and he laughed at how people are overreacting to Portland's financial situation.
Well, to play devil's advocate on this, it is have you read it or no?
Yeah,
it's okay. Okay. He does paint it the opposite of that reaction though.
No, he doesn't. I know exactly what you're talking about. He says that they have big contracts, and he says the literal next paragraph is they can move all of them.
I'll have to go look at it. I know he put the Ant trade scenario in there.
Yeah, which that.
If your return on Anthony Simons is a backup point guard who's not for long,
2 protected first-round picks,
and 2 protected picks from good playoff teams, that would be one of the worst trades in Portland history.
Yeah,
if we're talking about assets.
Yeah, but as far as the financial implications, the next paragraph after saying that Portland was at 1.7 over the cap or whatever.
1.7, yeah.
Yeah, he says if Portland opts to make any of these guys available, they'll be fine. And so that's the operating assumption across the league. Is like nobody's sitting here trying to bend Portland over a barrel, because everyone knows that they have viable players to trade and the players that other teams want. So it's not like this thing is like, well, it's going to cost you to make that deal because other teams are looking at it like, well, shit, we'd like a Malcolm Brogdon. We'd like a Jeremy Grant. We'd like a Robert Williams. We'd like an Anthony Simons. So the financial situation stuff, I'm not, again, 3 cycles out, I am not worried about a single thing as far as where they are at financially. They get into the season over the cap or over the luxury tax, I will be shocked. Shocked.
The point guard part, I think you and I have both talked about this separately on shows. We've probably touched on it on the pod. I'm just, you can feel however you feel about the direction of the franchise, what the last few years have been, trust, all that stuff. I don't know where everybody falls in that. But I'm going to sit in the spot of like, this is the situation. This is who's leading it. This is who's making decisions. I tend to believe that if certain guys are at 7, they're going to take them on the ceiling part. But if they also draft a point guard, I'm going to also assume the Crone Zone just says that's the best player. We're taking best player. And I don't know what that fallout is with Scoot. Again, they probably won't do it. But in the scenario they're painting of if they do it, man, if that prohibits growth, then
you have a bigger problem.
That's a different conversation.
That's a bigger problem. Yeah.
Yes.
And I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think you're like looking to draft like 2 guards for
No.
sure. But
I hope not.
Dusty and I talked about this the other day. Like, if they took Topic at 14 because they thought it was the best value deal. Now,
well, the new information
the
makes
medical clearance in the wingspan is still hilarious.
Smaller wingspan than his height. That's crazy.
Yeah, negative wingspan guard is tough.
Not great.
Jared Bayless is like, I made it work.
Hey, I won Summer League MVP.
Yeah, lady, he did, man. Poof, he did. Boy, he popped off.
I was way wrong on that guy.
Him and Josh Selby, baby, although he lasted a lot longer than Selby. But yeah, no, we will dive into a full CBA thing because that requires a significant amount of time to go through. Just know that the Blazers are not in this like crazy sideways situation. They're in the luxury tax by $1.7 million when you factor in the picks and guaranteed contracts.
Yeah. At Priest Lake, Dan, what is Shaden working on this offseason? He kind of feels forgotten by some, but I still have high hopes for him. But I'll also a Blazer fan, so I've been beaten down enough to not get my hopes up. A baby Kobe question here. I'm curious if you've heard anything about Shaden in particular. I just hope he's working on.
Yeah, he was working out down in Phoenix 2 weeks ago with Matisse. Tease was working out down there because he trains down there. I believe Shaden and Tease were both working with Nate Bjorken, who I guess it's probably a good transition point, who's been working as a consultant with the Blazers for over a year. But I have on multiple sources indicate very strongly, wink, wink, nod, nod, that Nate Bjorken is very likely to be considered for one of the open assistant coaches positions. So, would not be the head chair. So it would either be the Rodney Billups position or the Steve Hetzel position. I think that's kind of what's still up in the air as far as that's concerned. I think they're probably there's some fired head coaches that are out there that could fill in the assistant head coach spot that have years left in their deal still. That would be very easy to financially offset because that's all you have to do when somebody has guaranteed years on their deal. And for them, that's an easier deal to do than to come in and get like a 1-year deal if there wasn't as much security there. If that makes sense. So like if you were to go to sign an assistant just straight up who didn't have an active contract or didn't get a bought out contract. For those that don't know the way the NBA language works, like if JB Bickerstaff or Frank Vogel, who have both been fired recently, or if Monty Williams gets fired, they have guaranteed years left. Frank Vogel had 4, JB had 3, Monty has 4. Whatever they came here and if they took a job as the lead assistant here, they would get a contract, but it would only offset what the other team owed. So if Monty's owed $15 million and they gave him 3, the Pistons would pay 12, and then the Blazers would pay 3. So that's how that stuff works on the offset language typically, unless there's something different written into it. But that's a way to kind of work around this, because it is, and we've talked about this, it is not a optimal position to be in if you're looking for an assistant coach in a lame duck year and you can't offer anything perhaps more than a 1-1, which is like a 1 year guarantee with a team option.
Team option, yeah.
So, and Bjorkgren is on a bit of a rehab tour.
Yeah.
So, you know.
On the Shaden front, could I just throw in, like, and I'm not questioning. Daniel probably hangs with a lot of people, so maybe this is where the question comes from. I don't feel like Shaden is forgotten.
He's the one I get brought up probably the most.
Yeah, I would push back on it just a little bit in the sense of, like, I feel like he
maybe
was,
in draft season.
Yeah, I mean, he missed most of last year. It sucked. You didn't get a good read of what he was in his second season. I think a lot of people are excited to see if he takes a baby Kobe leap, and certainly the organization would love to know, like, where he's kind of, what he's morphing into this year. So I push back just a little bit on that. I don't think.
I also wouldn't be surprised to see Shaden pop up with Team Canada.
That would be dope.
Now, I don't think he makes the final roster, because that team does no bigs and all of the guards.
Yeah.
Like, their bigs are Kelly Olynyk and, like, Chris Boucher.
Studs.
It's a little tough out here. The guard plays nasty, though.
Yeah,
the guard plays deep. So, but, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Shea pop up and get a camp invite with Team Canada. Like, Shea's good. Side note, Dylan Jones, from Weber State, played with Shea in high school and was very, very complimentary of Shaden. There was Shaden was spotted at a Portland State game this year, and people are like, "Why the hell is Shaden at a Portland State game?" It's because he's going to watch his boy at Weber State playing at Portland State. So those guys, I guess, still keep in touch. But yeah, Dylan was very, very, very complimentary of Shaden. He was like, he basically gave the short version is that boy nice. So
that boy nice.
Yeah.
Keegan Spenlove, I hope that's your real last name, because that's amazing. Wants to know, who are the guys that might be available in the 7 to 14 range that you're higher, lower than other draft experts on?
Okay, let me pull up my mock real quick. My mock is a little bit older now. I'm probably going to do a new one this weekend.
You have to say, you can update it soon.
Yeah, I said I'd start it once workout started and Intel started coming in. I know in my mock I was originally higher on Saloon. I have been riding that boat for quite some time.
Can I ask you real quick on that? Because you and I talked right before the pod, and I had said, like, if Saloon is there at 7, I think I'd almost be surprised if they didn't swing on him. Is that where you're at right now? And it just doesn't feel like he's going to be at 7. It feels like he might end up being a sneaky, higher pick than that.
His ceiling is 4, I think, with San Antonio. I don't think you really have to worry about him at 5, but Kristen Peak just mocked him at 5 to Detroit. Could be. I don't think he's a candidate for Charlotte. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Let's see, my mock, this is from May, sorry. So May, I had Saloon at 14 to Portland. And I think most mocks back then had him in the 20s or 30s. Some, I think, early then had it maybe him in the teens. I had Klingon 12, and that was only because I had him at 3 different spots. I was like, I had Holland 9. Where did I have Buzelis? I think I put Buzelis 5th just because I had heard a lot of noise around him.
What is the buzz to his name? I know Pistons. You didn't like him.
Yeah. My next mock will probably have Sar and Ricochet 1 and 2. Reed probably still 3 based on intel for where things sit right now. But Dillingham will fall down. Buzelis will fall down. Topic will fall down. Holland will fall down. Knecht will go up. Klingon will go up. Saloon will go up. Devin Carter will go up. Kalel Ware will go up. Tristan Da Silva will go up. Yves Missy will go up. Edie maybe will go up.
Did you see Portland, the ED's kind of one of the teams. Like Portland's one of the teams. There's like 5 teams. You're not a big ED guy.
I'm
I
not.
know,
I'm
but
not a big E guy. Also,
it'd be 14 if they took him.
I don't think he's gonna be a lotto guy. I could be wrong.
You think he'll fall out of it?
Yeah, I don't think. It's very hard for me to like. This is like if you're in the
14
NFL.
is just like the line, though. Like technically counts.
Yeah, technically, but the thing about Edie for me is he's Taysom Hill. Like you have to design this thing around him to functionally utilize him.
Just don't tell me he's the quarterback. I'm not going to believe you.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
It's
kind of gimmicky in a way.
But like, yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, he knows how to play basketball.
Yeah, like the Blazers need somebody who can screen. And Edie
I don't know
if
I'm mad at it, man. Like I'm not the biggest Edie guy, but like if they took him at 14, I don't know if I'm upset. I think that's where I'm at on this draft, Danny. You've been really anti Ron Holland, right? We talked about this on multiple pods.
Yeah. And it's not because I don't like him. I'm just like, what does he do?
Right.
Like I feel bad. I've said this before. Like I don't like crapping on the kids. I've tried to keep the stuff mostly positive and not like what they can't do. Like okay, they can't do this now, but could they?
But because you know what Edie does?
He scores over his right shoulder and he's 7'5".
And he sets big ass screens, and he's a problem in the paint.
But man, he just can't. Like everyone's like, well, he moved really well for his size. I'm like, his size is a mountain. Like,
hey, the mountain worked pretty well in Game of Thrones for a long time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he was also a zombie.
Well, maybe Edie is. Who's to say?
It feels like I don't want to like take away from the guy. I don't. Like and again, I know I just said if you're going to err on size. Like
that's kind of where I'm coming from though. Is like to your point earlier. It's like if you sell me on a 7'4" guy, I'm in. For all of like the what if he stretches the floor? It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't because here's the thing. What does he actually do? He's big and he plays in the paint. So like the whole idea of like, well, you could use him as a floor spacer. Great. So you're going to like put a guard on him when he's out on the perimeter? Like, because you sure as shit know he's not putting the ball and attacking a closeout. Like that's not like, so now you can affect, like if he's spacing the floor, guess what he's doing now? Now he's effectively being guarded and the thing that he does best, which is be big, is completely eliminated. So like you have to factor him in. It's like, you're never going into 5 out. You're playing a 4 out offense at most whenever he's on the floor. You can say, well, you're putting him in the screen game. Like, yeah, and you're doubling the ball because when he catches the ball, you can use a sundial to track him through the lane. And like, yes, he moves incredibly well for his size. He is still one of the 3 to 4 biggest dudes to have ever been in the league when he gets in here. Mm-hmm. Right?
He doesn't move that well. And so it's not like you're not hitting him in pocket passes on pick and rolls. Like think just like, okay, let's visualize real quick. Let's say Scoot takes a leap forward and even he's a shooter. Okay. Like he's a 37% 3-point shooter.
Okay.
Like above functional.
Yeah.
You put Edie, Scoot, and pick and roll. What are you effectively getting out of that? Is Edie a lob threat? Like, is he going to run downhill and play in the pocket?
I think in that scenario, you're either freeing Scoot up for a really good look because of how big he is and how hard it's going to be to get around him, or
is that what you want to do? Like, you don't understand? Like,
he's shooting 37%, yeah.
But I'm saying, but does that maximize what Scoot does or maximize what Edie does?
It would just depend on what the execution is in that situation. If Danny Hurley tells me that the NBA is a problem if Zach Edey doesn't work, then I'm going to listen to Dan Hurley.
Look, I think Zach.
Lakers coach.
I think Zach works, but I think you have to try very hard to make it work.
I guess my position is because Danny, again, I'm not a huge Edey guy, but my position is Khalil Ware probably fits the profile of what I would imagine they're aiming for at 14, assuming he's available.
Yeah. And I do too. I would say that he's like. Stylistically, I think number one, I think they do want a screener, which is why I think Klingon like probably presents a little bit better.
Yes,
but I think the idea of Ware is like more like Lively in the sense of like a springier, bouncier guy that can maybe make some decisions on a short roll, play above the rim. Like, don't get me wrong, Edey's always above the rim, I guess. Yeah. But I don't know if the functional athleticism gets all the way there.
I think my position is my position basically because I don't know if this is the draft to really get nitpicky on at 14. I think it's kind of just like...
So I'd go the other way, not necessarily nitpicky.
Yeah.
But I think I'd go even more of a swing.
No. I know. We've talked about that part, and I think we agree with the 7th pick. Again, but like even if they ended up going Dalton Knecht, shout out Joe Cronin's hometown guy, I'm not going to sit during the draft and be like, what are they doing? I'm going to be like, I'm going to assume the Cronin Zone knows what they're doing, and that's the guy that fits what their organization is looking for at this time. But he's an interesting prospect because of these conversations.
There's very few guys where I'm going to be like justifiably frustrated.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
Like,
yes. Give me the name.
It's Ron and Mattis.
Yeah.
It's those two guys. Like, I don't.
You're out on the G League night.
I just am.
Okay.
Look, I love Ron's effort and intensity and hustle, but what's the skill?
No, I get it. I get it.
Modest, you can like, it's not my guy, but if you believe like functionally, look, he's 6'10", he could put the ball on the floor. He's the shot, like it was just too much in the G League, and he'll get a little stronger and he'll knock down shots, and he'll be like a weak side shot blocker, and you're like, yeah, he's a 6'10" toolsy guy who can do some stuff. Even if I disagree with that, I at least understand the rationale. Because again, number one, you're erring on size, like 6'10" with a handle. Like, yeah, okay, I can get down with that. Like, even if it's not my thing, Ron can't shoot. His vision is incredibly limited. He weighs $190. Like, I don't understand like where you're gonna put more size on this guy to where he's gonna be like this downhill guy who's super. His athleticism's good, not great, in the sense of like Iguodala coming out of college was not the most finished product you'd ever seen, but his athleticism
was
and
insane.
Control.
Yeah,
I think the guys that are like 15-ish years younger than us, 10, 15 years younger, don't truly remember. Like,
that's because Iggy's a warrior in their mind. They're like 76.
They don't remember 76ers or Arizona Iggy. This dude that just postered everyone,
jumped out of the gym catching lobs,
just like, absolute, like, you're like, good gravy, what is this monster?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, he had a level of athleticism. When I hear people like, oh, he's like that, I'm like, no, he's not. Like, those guys, the Andre Iguodalas, the Aaron Gordons, the Richardsons, the hell, Marbury, like guys, you're like, Jesus,
Nate Robinsons, right? Like,
like when you're
athletic dudes,
like when you're talking about like the 1% NBA
of
athlete
the 1%.
dudes, then you're like, Ron's just a good athlete.
Yeah,
like, don't get me wrong, in the NBA, which is still insane. I'm not like, but handle's not great. Finishing is kind of His wiggle's not really there. Defensively, he competes, but I know how young he is. And if you're banking on anything, you're banking on that he is just a dog of an effort guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you want to bank on, okay. Like, I've seen it work out for guys like Jay Crowder and Wes Matthews. They're just like, I'm just going to just beat you to death by Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it happen. Like, those guys, yeah. But I watched a lot of tape on him, man. I just didn't
pop
see.
to.
It's just like those are probably the only two, and even then, it's probably just like. And I'm getting the lottery. Those Ron specifically because of his fit or lack thereof.
Okay.
But it is.
This one from Scott at Scooter and a bunch of numbers. What's up with the team buying more land next to the PF WNBA team? Question mark.
Take the WNBA team stuff and just shoot it into the sun because I don't know where that came from. The Blazers aren't going to be involved in the WNBA team, and not the WNBA. Like,
well,
the guys,
I think natural just assumption because how close Portland was to getting the last wave.
Yeah, but the Blazers weren't involved with that either. Like that's what,
no,
like,
I know, but I think that's just where people are going.
I know the report that came in the Oregonian. The person that was quoted was like from the Oregon Sports School of Business or something like that, and it was like, what?
It's an odd person to quote.
Why would you go to that person? They have no idea what the hell's going on there. No, so it's a Mercedes-Benz repair shop right on the back of the PF. And there's just no land around there. Like if you've ever been over there, there's like it's built up. And so when that land becomes available, you snatch it up. The PF's in really good shape. They've actually just expanded it. They added a media room, but like that media room has been taken over by office space. Like what wasn't there got turned into office space like very quickly. It was supposed to be like PR and media, and then it very quickly got turned into like more office space for coaching staff. So like they're just running out of room because they're spending more money. And that's what it is. Like they have the Remix now. So what if they want to build another gym so that the Remix and the Blazers can practice at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and it's,
I think Holdall had mentioned that on Twitter. He was like, my best guess might be Remix stuff.
yeah, but like that's for all of the, like when people are like, oh, you just carry Jody's water. This is what I'm talking about with like them spending money. Like it's continual investment in the team. They're not cheaping out on investing in the team. Like they just spent $5 million. Like yeah, no problem. So, but yeah, it's not WNBA. I have heard like if the WNBA team does come together, that there would likely be like a joint facility between the Thorns and the whatever WNBA team, because the Thorns ownership group of the Bethals have been linked to the WNBA team for a while now.
So, let me just a message to any potential owner of the WNBA franchise when it gets to Portland.
Draft Juju?
Well, drafting Juju would be pretty good. Paige Becker's pretty good.
I'm telling you, well, Paige will be in the league before then.
I know.
By the time that Portland gets a team, I've kind of had some discussions behind the scene. If Juju stays and does 4 years, I'm just,
Well, Juju's going to make a lot of NIL money, so it wouldn't be shocking. She might be coming for those Caitlin Clark records. So
yeah. Go ahead and do that, Juju. Get
just
paid.
A tip: if you're going to have a team, do me a big favor. Don't come to Portland and make your team colors purple and gold. I don't know who advised the Golden State franchise. Valkyrie's a great name. It actually makes a lot of sense. You get the Warrior, you get the Valkyrie. We're going to do purple and black? Do we know an hour up the highway are the Sacramento Kings? What are we doing here? You are doing your team
3 hours south, there's another purple team?
It's unbelievable. You could also,
what color
blue
shirt
and
you
yellow
wear right
right
now?
there. Blue and yellow.
What color shirt you got on?
I'm not a WNBA franchise, Daniel. I'm wearing a Hood to Coast shirt that I worked out in. I stink. I smell awful, but I ran out of time because we were podcasting.
There you go. All right, what else we got?
All right. Alex Olander wants to know two-parter for you. Gavoni was on Low Post, mentioned he felt Klingen's absolute floor is 7. Do you think the Blazers would consider going after him? Would they need to move up? And second, they worked out Knecht, so this is a couple days ago. Would you like the potential fit with him at 3? And before you answer this, let me throw in one more thing. I am about had it to hear with this correction of height of player. No, actually, 6'5" in socks. We don't play in socks. We play in shoes. He is 6'6".
Look. I like that they're doing without shoes because then you get consistency depending on, well, like there's the tinfoil hat thing about Cole Aldrich when he came through the draft that he wore lifts. That when he went through the combine that he wore lifts.
Okay, get rid of the lifts.
But that's the whole point. Like you take him. Look, man, you want to understand why this is happening? Because you've got agents out there lying through their bleeping teeth about their client's wingspan.
And then it gets measured and they find out the truth.
And guess what? Take the shoes off.
Wear the shoes.
No, they weren't lifts.
What is this, Saban? This isn't Nick Saban. We're not putting lifts in our shoes.
Somebody did.
He's 6'5" and he's 6'6.5".
Look, okay? I will say this about Dalton. When I got in there, I was actually kind of surprised by how big he was. Like not just like height, but shoulders, like width. Like he feels bigger. And I was like, okay. Yeah. That's a good
My guy.
clip. That's a
my
good
guy.
clip. Also, he's a 2. He's 2. I comped him between my write-up somewhere between Doug McDermott and Max Strus, which I think is a good player. People might be like, like both can shoot the living hell out of the ball and put the ball on the floor.
That's this draft, by the way. Welcome to this draft.
But also, that's a good player.
It is a good player. I like that
Max
player.
Strus just got $15 million a year. That's
Dougie Bucket's been playing in the league a long time.
That's a good player, dog. That's helpful. He could score from every level. He could create his own shot. Can he play some 3? If he's playing off the bench 3, totally fine. Totally fine. I don't think he's a starting 3. Maybe I'm wrong, but I see him as an off the bench too. Or if you had a split unit or changes in the backcourt were made, then
I saw you arguing with somebody on Twitter, which is no shocking development, you arguing with somebody, but he is gifted enough to where if you need to put him at the 3 for certain lineups, he can handle the rock. He can handle the ball as a 3.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing is I asked him at the interview, you went from Northern Colorado to Tennessee and you showed that you could handle the next step up. And he's like, yeah, no, when the competition gets better, I get better. And I follow up, I was like, well, you had prolific production. How do you, are you going into these workouts saying, hey, look, I know I need to do whatever I need to do to get on the floor. That's what I need to do. But also, hey, I can do more than just a thing. And he gave the politically correct answer at first of yeah, I'm just going to do whatever I need to do, get on the floor, which is smart. That's what you need to say. But also he's like, look, man, I played the 1. Mm-hmm. I want to I've shown teams I can run your offense.
Yeah.
Tennessee basically said, "Please, sir, can you score 30 tonight so we can win?"
And they needed him in so many games that I watched to even keep them in the game at halftime.
Gracious, it's
he's a good player.
Yes, he's a very good basketball player
Smart
who could
player.
shoot the living hell out of the ball. I'll pull this up from my Patreon.
Also, before you do that, I want to add to it real quick. I know it sounds corny and cliche. Hyper competitive dude.
No. You were 100% right. He is a dog.
Yes.
Every time Tennessee does we need a bucket, it wasn't let's go to somebody else. It's Dalton time, and he rang the bell. Okay.
Yep.
So this is a very specific thing using Bart Torvik, which goes back to 2008, right? Players that are 6'6" or taller have a usage rate over 29%, a true shooting percentage of over 57%, and have taken over 200 threes in a season. Okay? So that tells you plus size, relied on a ton, very efficient, while also jacking threes. These are the players since 2008. David Jones at Memphis, Dalton Knecht, both this year at 2024. In 2019, Cam Young at Quinnipiac. Mike Daum, South Dakota State, 2018. Doug McDermott, Creighton, 2014. And hold on, I didn't tell you this or send this to you because I wanted to get your live reaction. Do you know who else is on this list from Washington State in 2011?
Clay.
Yes.
We're getting White Clay Thompson.
I knew it. I knew you'd get all hyped about that because you love Dalton. But yeah, there's 6 players in NCAA basketball in the last 14 freaking years. Excuse me, 16 freaking years that have had this prolific level of efficiency from 3 at 6'6" or taller, while also being a guy who their usage rate is jacked. They aren't just sitting there taking threes. It's a rare breed. And so
the only thing I'd say to that person you were interacting with, Danny, was I saw his response of I saw the highlights, and what I would say is that's where you got to be just a little careful with highlights.
Yes.
The guy that shot threes at a 40% clip has highlights of shooting threes, but he also had a lot of mid-range stuff.
Okay, here's where his points came in order of most points this season.
Yeah.
Guess what number 1 is? You won't get it right.
Of where his points came
where on the floor, what
paint.
whether it's cutting, posting up, isolation, spotting up as a ball handler, off screens. No.
ISOs.
No. Transition.
Okay.
Transition number 1. That's where he ate. Getting downhill early and often. Why? Because he's a high-level athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his lateral stuff isn't great, but he's a strong kid with, like, plus athleticism. He's not JJ Redick, right? Like, he's got a 39-inch vert. My man's got some bounce to him.
Yeah.
Okay, after that, it's off screen, which, yeah. Then, as a pick-and-roll ball handler, 4th in the spot up, where he was dumb efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was 87th or 88th percentile. Like, just crazy dumb. Then isolation, then in post-ups, where, again, he was very efficient, and then as a cutter. You know why? Because he had the ball in his freaking hand so much he couldn't work as a cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So when you kind of talk about Dalton and like, there's this idea, because he does fit the white prototype. I get it. He's got the high and tight, super white, but he's more of a Tyler Hero white than a Doug McDermott white.
Well, see, I was kind of going like he's the hybrid of those whites would be Austin Reeves. He's white. He's pretty white, but like he's got a little hero in him. You know, it's like,
you know what? That's a great one. He's more like, Austin Reeves. You know,
like he's right in between of those whites.
Yeah.
So that it's a good white. You know, I like Knecht. I've been on the record many a time. I love Dalton Knecht. I don't know if they take him at 7. Certainly going to take a swing at some other guys for sure, but he fits a profile. I think he checks some boxes for the Crone Zone. That's just what I think. Let's kind of get through some of these.
Yeah,
more to get to. We didn't answer the first part of that question, which was about moving up on Klingon. So I'll throw another one in.
I'll just say that real quick on Klingon. I don't think they would move up to take him.
Well, I was going to actually ask you to add to it. So you don't think they'll move up. If the Blazers do take him, this one's from Don Reed. Do you think Ayton can play minutes at the 4? How do you think he would do?
Nah,
my brother-in-law has been throwing this at me, and I'm like,
they did this with Rob Williams for like a couple games, but Rob could stretch out and hit that 15-footer like consistently, and also with Rob's a lot more mobile, and not only that, like Rob was playing more of the 4. Like,
yeah.
So no,
Klingon
because Klingon is 7'2" barefoot.
He's a big ass kid. Man.
He's 7 foot 280, dog. He's so big. He's so big. Like I know we talk about Edie, and it's like that guy's huge. It's like Klingon's no slouch. Klingon's huge, and it's like they're both basically 300-pound dudes, and it's just, yeah, it's no. I as much as like DA, like the shooting stuff, it would have to, like, against the Timberwolves with Cat and Gobert, sure, you could get away with it. Hyper-specific matchup, but no, I wouldn't do that.
Well, Scoury77 also asked if they do go Klingon at 7, assuming he's even available, how does that impact Ayton's future with the team?
Doesn't have to impact it immediately. He's on a rookie scale deal.
Yeah.
I think it more than likely would affect Wop or Rob.
Yep.
I know, and it doesn't mean they couldn't trade Ayton, but like, how often do we see, a team that had, like, for Ayton's shortcomings or whatever you want to call them, finished the year 18-10, 60% shooting.
He finished the year. I mean, after that ice storm, he got out of that ice and he became a whole new man.
Look, man, I think they built some trust up both ways, and DA, like, is DA expensive? Yeah, but I also think he's a very good center.
Lance Lewis wants to know they have to make trades to keep. They have to make trades to keep both picks. I'm not opposed per se, but what's the return and who is gone? Oh no, sorry, he was responding to somebody. Front office typically likes, this one's from Rob Blaze. My apologies, but shout out Lance Lewis nonetheless. This front office typically likes big swings on higher ceiling, lower floor prospects. But this draft, they are reported to be interested in Klingon and brought in Knecht for their first workout. Do you think they are prioritizing a higher floor in a bad draft this year?
No, because they've brought in other guys besides Knecht. that are higher potential, and we haven't talked about it yet, but there's a
They got
group
some guys coming in
on
too,
Tuesday, like Saloon's coming in, and I would say that he's one of the rawest prospects in the entire draft, along with Keyshawn George, who was a guy who grew like 4 or 5 inches, who's not a high level athlete, but he's a 6'8" guy who can handle the ball and knock down some threes, like from Miami. So there's plenty of like potential when you're looking at those guys. And then Holland's in that group too. If you believe in Ron, like, sure. So, but I don't think they're changing their philosophy, because here's the thing. I don't think safe picks are going to allow this front office to stay in charge going beyond this year. By that, I mean, like, if they get into the 2020, like, let's say they go through this year and they lose 60 games again, whatever, and they end up with the top 3 pick, and they have a chance to get, Coop, Ace, Dylan Harper, whatever it is, right? Okay. That's when the clock starts. So if you know that you essentially have 2 years to cook, can you afford to play it safe right now? Or do you have to, like, well, we kind of need to take a swing here and hope that one of these guys really hits to kind of springboard us going forward? And I think that's kind of how they've operated since Joe got the job, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I think it's I think too, Danny, I remember our talk about Knecht. I think that's why when we originally talked about him, that's kind of where I was coming from, of the, like, he probably doesn't have the highest ceiling of some of these names we've thrown.
Oh, I think he's one of the safest picks in the draft.
Well, but hear me out on this, right? Like, I get where you come from, and I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of it 99%, right? But this draft is a little different in the sense of it is some high ceiling stuff, but not a lot of consensus of, like, man, that ceiling is crazy. It's got to be a lot of internal development.
And the gap between the ceiling and the floor, between like there's probably only 3 safe picks, like right now today in the top 10.
But it's
probably Sarr, it's probably Reed, it's probably Dalton. Those are probably like the 3 safest picks, while also having like no BS skill sets that are like, that's a good player.
Transferable, yes.
Like it's totally a viable NBA player. Like, Reed can shoot the hell out of the ball. Dalton can shoot the hell out of the ball with like some creation and size. Sarr is a, right now, NBA defender, can step on the floor, be impactful.
Yeah.
Everyone else, you're like, I've heard people say, like, well, Rob Dillingham's probably the guy that, if somebody was going to be an all-star, it's going to be that guy. So he's going to be the one to buck the trend and be a 6'1" all-star? Like, have a Kemba Walker year? Like, those are the dice that you're throwing?
Well, but also, like, your point of you get next year and you hope that you get in the top position so you can get one of the names you just threw out there, right? Capture the flag. That guy has to be the one, right? Presumably. Yes. And then it's like the clock is starting. So, but that logic would say, that rookie is going to hit some walls once in a while, but the Scoot, the Shaden, and the player you may take this year, along with maybe, say, DA for another year, has to be showing progress while building that rookie up to be the dog, the one. And that's where I think maybe we kind of agree, but we diverge a little bit.
I think I would address that.
Be good. And in 2 years, Dalton's a good guy, helping the team take the right steps with that young player.
The line I said earlier, you can always get Dyson Daniels in the draft. You can always get Dalton Knecht in the draft. And so you can go get that guy in free agency. You can go, like, if I went to free agency and was like, let's go find a viable 6'5" to 6'6" 3-point shooter without even looking at free agency, or even guys that are like remotely available via trade. How hard do you think that would be?
Not the hardest.
How hard would it be for me to go get a 6'10" wing?
Well, but how? I guess this is the saloon conversation.
But I'm just saying, just like in general, like, how hard would it be?
6'10" wing is going to be very difficult. Yes, but like, if he's extremely raw, he's not going to show much. Even
okay. Here's the thing, though. Even then, if you have shown, let's go this way.
Yeah.
Let's go geology. It's a very dumb analogy, but I'll make this one. If you've got two stones, and inside one of them might be a diamond or it might just be glass, and inside the other one it might be sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
And you chip away and you see very, very, very quickly under the surface that it's sapphire. You say you can keep this one,
or you keep digging.
You can look at this other stone. You crack once, nothing there. Okay, crack twice, nothing there. Are you sure you want to keep going? You want to take the sapphire? Or you want to take this one? With the thought that underneath there could be a diamond the same size. And I'm using that as the most extreme example because it's
I get
it's the mystery box. Do you want the boat or the mystery box? Except for it's not a boat. It's a jet ski.
Jet skis are fun.
Jet skis are fun. Exactly. Jet skis are fun. A totally viable thing. Like, yes. But what if I told you in this mystery box there is a chance for a boat?
But you don't know what boat it is. Is it a little kayak or is it a motorboat that you can pull people along on a lake with? Mm-hmm. You get that kayak, you're going to go, damn it, dude, it's a one-person kayak. Nobody can come with me. Whereas at least the jet ski, that's a little different. Take your hands on the back.
That's the safety of it.
Yeah, I know.
But this is like, again, I am not going to deviate from my process in this.
No, I know.
And it's not just the size, but I'm always going to look at things. If I have guys that are on the same tier and in the same general area, I am going to operate on scarcity of asset.
Sure.
I can get Dalton Knecht anywhere. I can't get Cody Williams. I can't get Tijan Saloon. I can't get those guys all the time.
But to play devil's advocate on my end of this,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I totally get where you're coming from. If you are on the clock starting after next year's draft, Saloon may not be a guy that's helping your clock very much. And then also,
I don't think Dalton's helping you at all, though.
They what?
I don't think Dalton's helping you at all in that case. I don't think he does anything for saving your job.
Well, I'm just saying he's a more ready player. He's giving you minutes and actually producing.
Sure, but I don't. In the evaluation of front offices, maybe my read on this is wrong. I don't think that does enough. Like,
sure.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no, I totally, dude. I get everything you're saying,
and I just don't think that's enough.
But they also couldn't find a Dalton Knecht last year. They were like the worst team in the league shooting, and injuries don't help. But like,
no, but they also didn't prioritize. I can talk. Prioritize. What the hell did I just try to say?
Well, you hosted a radio show earlier, so like,
good
you talk a lot.
Lord, that was such a weird word. Prioritize.
I had that earlier. I can't remember the word, but I had it earlier this week, and I'm like, what am I saying?
My brain just like misfired. What the hell? But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think in the evaluation of like live or die, that wouldn't be something that mattered. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my interpretation of it at least. I 100% get where you're coming from of like, but this like also brought it up. Like it raised the level of suck. You know what I mean? Like in the sense of like, they weren't good, but this is shiny. They go, yeah, but anybody could have done that. You know what I mean? Kind of a deal.
Very fair.
That's my evaluation of it.
We've got a couple more questions. We'll run through these real quick. We're over an hour here. Mitchell Scanlon wants to know, with Topic falling due to torn ACL and the wrong wingspan measurement, still one of the all-time funniest things I've ever seen. What's your thoughts about the Blazers selecting him at 14 if he is to fall?
Depends on who's on the board. The wingspan thing,
to go from 7'1" to 6'5.5".
Well, like
so
the guys
crazy.
at No Ceilings had this, I think, back in January. So I had seen it back then, but there were still some people like, no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So I was like, all right, well, let's see what the measurements come back as. Again, shout out to the guys at No Ceilings. If you guys want like great draft coverage, the Tylers and Corey and everybody, Steven, everybody over there does a really, really good job. I had Corey on the radio 2 weeks ago. I'll probably bring one of those guys on at least one more time before the draft. But they like I said, they had that back in January. We were actually kind of laughing about it earlier today. That when it came through, it was like, oh, that's a tough day for the agent. First, it was the oops, the ACL's torn, but it's only partially torn.
Yeah.
It's partial tear. It's the same surgery, bro.
Yep.
Same surgery. Still at least 6 months. And then the T-Rex arms, because he's got a negative wingspan.
That's crazy to me, man.
That does not happen in the NBA, man.
No.
It's like, it's so like for those who don't know, I have the entire NBA combine data. I can't share the screen on doing it this way, but I have all of the combine data back to 2008 in a system that I can literally look up everything. And I was just kind of like, all right, who are negative guys? And it is a short list. I was like,
hey, short. I get it. Short.
Got it. So, but yeah. All right. Let's what else we got.
This is the last one. This one's from Andrew John. What are the most overrated, underrated metric discussion points for NBA draft consideration?
Wait, what?
What are the most overrated and underrated metric / discussion points for NBA draft consideration?
Combine stuff, mostly. A lot of the agility drill stuff, like there's a very, very real discussion. I wish I could cite the paper. There's a working paper that highlights the ability to train for specific events versus actual live change of direction, or CODs.
What the league really is.
Yeah. So there's other ways to measure it. I'm not familiar with it. They do it at like some of these training facilities like P3, where they kind of like have F1 style reaction drills. And they've got like sensors built into the floor and into your clothing and stuff like that can like pick up like change of direction and things of that nature. I've heard about. I don't know if that's specifically at P3, but at other facilities I've heard about through testing. That stuff's much more helpful than like a lot of the combine stuff as far as measurements on the agility stuff. More predictive is standing vertical and max vertical, because you get to see how explosive somebody is in space with like max vertical of like, let's see what this guy does with a runway. Shaden Sharpe or Anthony Simons with a runway is terrifying. 40+ inch vertical. Shaden Sharpe is in a phone booth. Explosive.
He was 46, wasn't he?
Yeah, but it's not official.
That is insane.
But also, I've been next to Shaden when he's done stuff in practice.
Yeah. Only one player on this roster makes Lamar just respond with a.
Yeah, I've seen these guys go at it before. Shay's got some of the most insane bunnies I've ever seen. And when Ant tells me like, nah, he's got it. Like
the dunk champion Anthony Simons, like, no, guy's actually better.
Yeah, Ant is always like, I need some steps. Like Shay just takes and goes, and But those are actually predictive, like as far as like rebounding, explosiveness, shot blocking, rim deterrence, ability to muscle up, those kind of things, which is really interesting. They don't do the bench press at the combine anymore, probably because so many guys sucked at it. Boy,
that was the big KD thing. Could bench 185. It's like, well, he gets buckets. So.
Yeah, well, he just shoot over the top of you. Like, yeah, he's. You're right. He's not Larry Allen benching 682.
R.I.P.
Yeah, big fella. But
49er great.
Outside of that, those are probably like the most like directly indicative, not indicative things. Discussion points, shooting. Most guys coming out suck at shooting. You're looking for volume of attempts, not necessarily makes. Like, I'm a big Cody Williams guy. He did not. He took 40, 42. Can't remember off the top of my head. Him and Khalil Ware took like the same amount of threes this year, and they both shot like 41 or 42%. The guy that takes 200 but shoots 33% is better off in my book, because like, all right, yeah, here's the thing. Most young guys suck at shooting the ball, which is why Reed Shepherd doing what he did is like, God dang, dude. Yeah. Jared McCain too. I wrote up after Jared McCain's workout that, you know, there's a group of players that shot basically like 200 threes and over 39% as freshmen. It's like 8 guys. It's a small list. Like you going from high school to NCAA 3-point shooting is tough, man. Going from high school to G League 3-point shooting is tough, man. Like that's it, but you're looking at willingness, and then you're looking at form, which is significantly more subjective. And then like the most indicative thing is rebounding. Rebounding is the most indicative translatable stat in basketball. Doesn't matter if you're in China, Australia, France, you rebound the ball at a crazy high rate, you're going to rebound the ball.
Yeah.
Like it is what it's like the most straight line you can draw in evaluation. Scoring, I think you're looking more at how. Oh, finishing. Finishing is a really good one. If you're a high level finisher as a guard or a wing in college with how little space there is in college, you're probably going to be a pretty good finisher in the NBA. Like that's again why when we get off here, by the way, I'll be pushing the Cody Williams preview here pretty soon. So that's why he's on the front of the brain right now. I had a little issue, a little hiccup, and I'll be pushing it back out here to go up soon. But yeah,
I find the underrated part too, just like as somebody not covering these players as extensively, just watching basketball, really enjoying the draft process, largely my whole life. I just find the mental aspects of all of it the most underrated, and it's got to be the toughest for the teams to identify. The FU guy, the dog in him, the how was he how was he molded? What was his upbringing? You know, did he get basically cast at the end of the bench at this place and he transferred and became a dude? Yeah. Like it's hard to quantify that stuff, but man, when teams can hit it, it's just like, yeah, there you go. That's the underrated part of some of that to me is like, which dudes are truly ready? And you know this better than anybody. The mental, emotional aspect of being in the league, there's a maturity there that you got to be ready for, and you got to handle it and know who's around you and know who's in your circle. And like sometimes
this will make you feel better. Dalton's one of those guys. Like you can just tell right away. You can just tell right away, like, oh, he's going to be fine.
There's probably a few of these guys though in that draft, right? Yeah. Like I wouldn't be shocked if any of the UConn kids all had it.
Yeah, talking to Harrison Ingram and Dylan Jones, they're going to be fine. Like they, 100%. Like the mental maturity is there. Jared McCain, one of the happiest players I think I've ever interviewed in my life. That dude is just genuinely happy. Hopefully the league doesn't eat him alive. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to maintain that level of just like effusive happiness, but I hope it works for him. But I mean, there's been some interviews over the time where I'm like, oh, buddy, this is going to be tough for you. You know,
this transition's not going to be.
It is going to be a rough year, but you know, that's part of the process. We've got a ton of questions about the. We'll kind of wrap up here. About the draft process, the interview process, the workout process. I'm not going to talk about who worked out today or the other day or that or anything like that. What I will say is that there are agents and agencies right now that are trying to control and get players where they want to go and keep things quiet in that sense. I don't like it. It makes it more difficult to do my job. I would much rather get in and talk to guys. Yeah. It's not the team or teams doing this. So don't be like, oh, the Blazers are it's the agents. It's what's happening. The Blazers were actually the only team in the league that were doing open workouts, like the only one. So hopefully that workout on Tuesday is public.
Yeah.
Oh, I just put the day out there.
The 3x3 one that you're
the big one. Yeah. No. Yeah. Let's say hopefully the workout on whatever day it's on.
I just think it's a bummer for fans, really, honestly. Like the media, obviously the media is the media, but you know, for fans, it's like we don't know who the team is going to take, and obviously we get
the team. Like full disclosure, the team wants these workouts public because it's like free content for them. Like it's like, look, guys, these are what we're bringing in. Here's some cool stuff.
I get
like,
it. It's more of a shot at the agency for me. Of it's like this. Do you know who loses in this? The fans. Like, we don't get to see any highlights. We don't get to see how they answered questions and handled some of like, hey, why would you fit here? And like, some of those guys give great answers, and
Some
they
of them
make
give
you,
terrible ones, and some of them give fantastic ones.
right. But like, I don't know. I get it. I guess it's business, but man, fans are only losing in this stuff,
Yeah,
and I don't like
I
it.
agree. I 100% believe that they should go back to having them all open. And who knows? Maybe we get the next workouts open, and maybe some others that are closed. And when
Imagine
we,
this in '07. I wouldn't have gotten Kevin Durant's autograph. I wouldn't have watched Kevin Durant sign somebody's flip phone screen and him be like, "You really want me to sign this, dog?" And he's like, "Please do it. You're KD." And he's like, "This is the weirdest thing I've ever signed." Like, I wouldn't have had that.
considering that guy was probably rolling at the club the other night, just getting him up in the club, I bet you he's probably signed weirder since then.
You should have seen that guy. He signed a magazine of mine that I have hanging up. The dude goes, "What you want me?" He goes, "KD goes, what you want me to sign?" And he goes to his hip and he goes, "This, bro." And he flips it open. It's an old school like Motorola flip phone. He goes,
That's awesome.
"You want me to sign the screen?" He goes, "Please, dog, please."
It's a very
Okay.
unique. It's a very unique thing.
I guess.
100%. So as far as that process goes, as we get closer to the draft, I'll probably talk about who they brought in. As far as I know, on the private side, it's just doesn't do me any good right now.
Yeah.
But that's where things stand. The Wasserman didn't do anything wrong in this.
Doing his job.
No, he's doing his job. And honestly, I bet you an agent who's up against another agent in that group was like, "Oh, you want to keep this quiet? Word?
Here's a big middle finger.
Yeah, no. Hey, Was, go ahead and put this out there for us, dog. Appreciate you."
Yeah.
So keep the questions coming. We love you. We appreciate you. Like I said, we're going to do these every week again. I bumped Tuesday's solo show because of everything that was going on with workouts and everything there, and I had other content coming out. I will probably do a show Monday or Tuesday, depending on if there is or isn't a workout that I may or may not be attending. That will determine kind of how that window is going to work. And then that will also determine any like the smaller standalone ones that I do between now and then. But thank you guys. We appreciate you. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with family. Thank you all for subscribing to the Patreon. It has had insane growth over the last 3 weeks. So thank you guys. Like it's been super dope to see all of the feedback and to see so many of you subscribe. Brandon and I will have an announcement about where the radio show will be for the draft once we get the okay from our boss. And then we are talking about doing something as well on site for Jack Ramsays. And as we get closer, we'll let you guys know kind of how that stuff's going. Other than that, you got anything?
Nope.
All right, cool. Everybody have a great weekend. I'd say listen to us on the radio, but we're not doing anything this weekend. Monday, check back in. We'll have Game 2 thoughts from the Mavs and Celtics series, and I'm sure we'll have some more draft guests. I'll have Was and Vicini coming on in the next week or so to talk draft stuff. Other than that, everybody have a wonderful weekend. You can find us on social media at Jack Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague, at I just screwed up the read that I've done a million times. Jack Ramsays at gmail.com. My brain is totally fried at this point. Other than that, enjoy the sun, enjoy the weather, go out there, touch grass as it were, and we'll catch you guys next week. Take care. Talk soon.